Welcome. Welcome. I'm Wake, your host for Shaman to Shaman. We're here to meet members of Shamans Directory, shaman to shaman, healer to healer, teacher to teacher, with earth and lineage-based practitioners and spiritual stewards from around the world. Today, I'm honored to welcome Dr. José Luis Stevens. Dr. Stevens is a lifelong apprentice of his own spiritual path. He initially studied with the Indigenous Huichol of central Mexico. He's received his doctorate related to shamanism, is a life coach and master teacher with over 45 years of experience. He and his wife, Lena, live on the land they steward in the high desert near Santa Fe. I'll touch on more in a moment, but I wanted to introduce you to Jose. Welcome. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Jose is the president and co-founder of Power Path Seminars, School of Shamanism, and Intuitive Skills Training, an international school and consulting firm dedicated to the study and application of shamanism and indigenous wisdom to business and everyday life. Jose completed a 10-year apprenticeship within the Huichol community in the Sierras of central Mexico and has since studied other Toltec traditions as well as extensive work with traditions from the Amazon, Andes, and Europe. In 1983, he completed his doctoral dissertation at the California Institute of Integral Studies, focusing on the interface between shamanism and Western psychological counseling. Since then, he's studied cross-cultural shamanism around the world to distill the core elements of shamanic healing and practice. As an international lecturer and consultant, he has worked with a huge range of individuals and businesses to help them discover their most effective path of service and success. Jose has helped to develop systems for understanding people that are unparalleled in the field of psychology and business. In addition, he is the author of numerous articles and more than 20 books, including the Shaman's Book of Extraordinary Practices, How to Pray the Shaman's Way, Awaken the Inner Shaman, The Power Path, Secrets of Shamanism, Transforming Your Dragons, and Praying with Power. We hope the stories Jose shares today will resonate with you, sparking something new on your own path. As with all our Shamans Directory offerings, that you will feel inspired to bring more shamanic wisdom and healing into your life. Shaman to Shaman is brought to you by Shamans Directory, a vibrant online platform where earth and lineage-based shamans share their medicine, build community, and help change the world. Visit us at shamansdirectory.com on YouTube and Instagram. So now, I'm truly honored to welcome back Jose Luis Stevens to introduce himself to our global shamanic community. Jose, where would you like to begin?
Well, maybe a little something about how I began this journey of being interested in the shamanic path and all of that. It all started really when I was a child, and my parents worked and my grandmother took care of me. And my grandmother was born and raised in Mexico, and she was raised on a hacienda where native indigenous peoples were the servants. So she was raised by the servants, and they taught her their indigenous ways and their shamanic outlook and all of that. And so when I was a child, she passed that on to me. Spent many hours with her, and she would tell tall tales from old Mexico, which went way back because she was born in 1880 or something like that. So it was really an interesting experience to grow up at, under her tutelage, you might say, and that put a spark in me. It was like it was formative because I was very young at the time. So even though I went to Catholic schools and had a conventional upbringing in many respects, that always stayed with me. And so I began to realize that I was looking at the world slightly differently than my friends and the people, who I associated with. I just always had this really intuitive sense. I would know things before they happened, and I would see things about people that they hadn't really told me, or things like that. And it just began to dawn on me that that was not what was considered normal by the culture. And so at first, I kind of kept that all to myself. I had very prophetic dreams, things like that. And eventually, I just learned that that was an okay way to be. And of course, when I finally got into my 20s and eventually went to CIIS and studied there, I began to feel a lot of validation that, I started to begin to understand really what that was all about. And that it was a valid way of being in the world. And not only valid, but it was a very fortunate, I think, very fortunate way to be once I was more trained in it, you could say. I could manage it a little better. So anyway, that's a very quick run through on where that interest began.
Well, I'm so interested, Jose, also in your choice of your dissertation. Could you tell us about that?
Well, I had already been, I first went to UC Berkeley and got a master's in social work because I wanted to be a counselor, and it was the quickest way to do that. It was a 2-year program. And so I became a psychiatric social worker, and I worked at state mental hospitals and things like that. Really hardcore, working with inmates, locked in wards, and really pretty disturbed people. And I think I learned much more from them than they benefited from being with me. But after 10 years of doing that kind of work, working at family services and all kinds of different clinics and things like that, and this was in the Bay Area of California, so it was a really wild time during the early 70s. And so I already had the background of a Western psychological approach, you could say. But it was insufficient. I knew in my heart that there was big gaps. There was something really missing in that approach. And in fact, working in the state hospital, I got to witness a lot of abuse between staff and patients, and it was really more like a prison system. And so it was a real relief to attend a program, work on my doctorate that was associated with some of the things that I had learned from my grandmother at a young age, and the whole shamanic approach and the whole at that time there was a lot of emphasis on Eastern religions. So we studied Buddhism and studied Islam and many different traditions, Taoism. And so it was a very, very rich experience, rich education. And everything began to integrate. I began to understand that where these gaps were and how they could be filled. And I was raised Catholic, but sort of institutional, traditional Catholicism. And then I began to understand what spirituality really was, which is a whole different thing. And I began to be able to understand my own spirituality, and that was a core or essential piece of being a good counselor. that, you can't just wear the title of social worker or psychologist or therapist, psychotherapist. There's got to be something else. There's got to be heart. There's got to be connection with spirit. And then people start to get better. and anyway, it was a world of difference. So I was very fortunate to have those experiences.
Well, what a radical realization that your own spirituality makes such a profound difference in the people you work with.
It was just so obvious. When I was connected, then they could become connected. But if I was disconnected, well, how could I be influential at all? I thought I was, but I wasn't really.
Well, and then Jose, you deepened your experience through this apprenticeship and through meeting the indigenous medicine people. How did that come about?
Well, the era of my education was in the late 60s and early 70s, and it was immense exploration of, like, LSD was available, and mescaline and all the different hallucinogens were available. And I, of course, experimented with them like all my associates and friends. And so I had some background in altered states. And so it wasn't that big of a leap to begin to work with indigenous peoples who worked with peyote, for example, the Washarika people, who are also known as Huichols. That's who I studied with and had an apprenticeship with. It was a very strong peyote culture. And I attended many, many peyote ceremonies out in the desert in Mexico, in the peyote fields, a place called Wirikuta. And so I began to realize the difference between, say, something like LSD, which is, a chemical, and a real plant medicine, which has spirit in it. And I could really see the difference. Not that there wasn't value in taking something chemical, because I learned from those experiences as well. But then I began to understand there was a much deeper connection with plant medicines that these people were using, and how it fit into their cosmology, how it affected their whole outlook on life. It was a massive education. And, there's words can't describe what that was all about, what happened in those 10 years of that apprenticeship. But it was amazing transformation for myself and my wife, Lena, who we did that together.
Well, and as you've just mentioned, you went down again and again to experience and apprentice. I wonder if you could share some of the aspects of the cosmology you learned from indigenous sources. What kind of knowledge were you filling out in those experiences?
Well, the thing that stands out for me, as you asked the question, I'm immediately think of what my teacher Guadalupe used to say often. He says, peyote teaches you how to live. It teaches us how to live. It was given to us by Kayumari, the blue deer. Of course, at the time I heard that, I thought, well, that's really wild. How could that be? Like, it was very different from my understanding of the universe. But that began to make sense to me. Of course, the teaching how to live, I experienced that myself. When I would enter ceremony with them, and they would sing and they would pray, and there would be tears, and it was a very intimate, very a deep emotional experience. And I began to have visions of Kayumati, the blue deer. And I was thinking, this is crazy. How could I possibly be seeing this blue deer, And the blue deer, they think of the blue deer as being the first shaman that actually taught them how to live and gave them peyote, because the blue deer came, and everywhere it jumped over the land, where its hooves touched the ground, peyote would grow. And the peyote was a plant version of the sun, because it would sit out in the hot desert under the hot sun and absorb the radiation of the sun, and then they would pick it and they would eat it, and they would be eating the sun as well as the essence of Kayumati. So I began to experience that yes, that was in fact, at some level, that was so. And that was a real remarkable understanding for me. It was just another valid way of perceiving the world. It wasn't a replacement or anything. It was just another. I could hold that and hold the other things that I believed at the same time, and that just felt really good to me. It just expanded my viewpoint. Another thing that Guadalupe used to emphasize over and over again, he said, once you start this path, a shamanic path, he didn't use that word, but he said, once you start this path, then there's a price to pay. He said, you can no longer get away with the things that you used to. If you didn't have integrity, if you told a lie, if you didn't keep your word, you could get away with that stuff. But once you start this path, that's no longer true. If you break your integrity, if you tell lies, if you misrepresent yourself, whatever, or if you go off on a drinking binge and have addictions and things like that, those things will cost you. You will feel the effects of those things much more strongly than before. And so you better get ready. And subsequently, I found that he was absolutely right, that it was not the same. Once you're sensitive to these things and you realize the damage that they're doing, the damage that they do to your soul, your spirit, you're lacking in integrity, for example. He used to say, if you break your word and you go down the wrong fork, so to speak, on the path, he said it's like letting a band of thieves run through your house, ravaging everything. And that really got me. That image of bandits going through my house, just turning everything over, and it was like, oh, do I want that? But he was right, that of course it wasn't physical damage, it was damage to the spirit, damage within. It's not like you can really damage your spirit, because it's always whole. But you can damage your relationship with spirit. That's the problem. And I learned that in a big way.
I so appreciate you sharing your personal experience, Jose, and what a path of transformation you've chosen, and not always been an easy path, wouldn't you say?
I would say it's not easy. I've heard other people say that when advising other people, they say you don't want to take this path. It's too damn hard to pick something else. But I don't exactly feel that way. It's hard, but I think it's the greatest path going. I think for those that are ready and really want to walk a strong path, a path of heart, there's nothing like it. So I don't really warn people away from it, but I do tell them what Guadalupe told me. There's a price, and you have to be prepared. And part of the price is your own comfort. It's not comfortable path. We'd be out in the freezing cold all night long, eating peyote, throwing up. What's comfortable about that? But the rewards really shine through. It was small price to pay, actually, very small price to pay. One of the costs was that he asked us not to tell anyone that we were studying with him because it would have been politically difficult for him and his community. So for 10 years, Lena and I had to remain silent about that we were going down to Mexico and training with him. And that was really hard. We used to just say, "Oh, we like going to Mexico." It's,
You were developing a secret spiritual life without anyone really being aware. People must have noticed the changes.
Well, I think they did, but we did a pretty good job of sort of camouflaging that. And eventually we did tell people we were going down to Mexico to train, but we didn't say where or who or what. And that, protected him.
Well, you speak in some of your works about your journeys to other indigenous cultures and learning core elements of shamanic practice and healing. Would you share a core element or two that you've learned that feels like it carries through your work now?
Yeah. Well, subsequently, we had the opportunity to go down to Peru and in the Amazon area and work with the Shipibo people. And we asked Guadalupe, our Wisharaka teacher, if that was okay, because sometimes there's these strict rules that you stick with one tradition and one teacher, and they don't want you learning from anybody else. But he was very liberal minded, you could say. And he said, if you have an opportunity like that, take it. Go learn from whoever you can. Learn, go ahead, go. So we did. And we went down and began to work with this particular family in the Amazon in Peru. And they're ayahuasqueros. And they work with the ayahuasca and powerful healers and really wonderful teachers. And one of the things that I learned, I saw that they also sang, because the Wisharaka people sing all through their ceremonies and often sing with tears. And the Shipibo, likewise, a big part of their tradition was singing healing songs into people. Their idea is that the whole universe is one big song. And it's composed of many, many songs that are that the world is singing all the time. And that's what keeps the world going, are these songs that are sung by the trees, sung by the flowers, sung by the sun and the moon, and they're all medicines. So if you learn the songs of these powers and you sing them into people, it's like giving them the sun, like giving them the moon, like giving them these plants that grow in the Amazon that heal people in various ways. And I saw it not only happen to other people, but they would sing to me in ceremony, and I could see the song coming out of their mouth and going into me and producing amazing results. Opening my heart. I had experiences. I'll just describe this one incident where I was really ill. I was in the jungle, and it's easy to get sick, and there's bacteria and things like that there. And I came down with this influenza, and I was really sick, and I had a fever, and I was cold chills and sweats, and I crawled up to the ayahuasquero during ceremony, and I said, "I'm so sick. Can you help me?" And he said, "Sure." He said, "I'll be there in a moment." And he came over and he looked at me. This was all in the dark. And he looked at me and he started to sing. And he sang this song. And as he sang the song, I felt the sore throat lift out of my throat. I felt my body cool down from this intense sweating and this fever. And by the time he finished the song, which was about 5 minutes long, I felt great. I felt totally well and filled with vitality. And he said, "How's that?" And he laughed. And I said, "That was fabulous." And he said, "That was a nasty little demon, but don't worry, I took care of it." So that was just one of many, many events like that, working with the Shipibo people. I learned so much from them. We've worked with them for about 35 years now. We still work with them. We go down about twice a year and work with them, continue to do so. And so I carry this tradition of that the whole world is singing all the time. And that's why Indigenous people sing, is that they know that. And they capture these songs. They grab the songs and then they sing them, for specific purposes. And I've learned that tradition, and I sing much more now in my life than I ever have before. And but it's specific. It's for a purpose. And anyway, that's just one of a number of things I could talk about. But
that's a beautiful set of experiences and understanding about ways of the world. And I know that your Power Path school that you share with Lena, your daughter Anna has taken a big part as well, that you offer experiences, perhaps not so drastic as a 10-year apprenticeship. And I guess that's a question that I have in engaging in your school in the many ways that that's possible. What is the depth and quality of the experience that someone could receive?
Well, it really ranges depending on the person's interests. So we do have a year program that many people take, and it's a year shamanic studies program, and they learn the basics of cross-cultural shamanism. And we share with them a lot of our personal knowledge and experience with these different tribes. And after a year, they become eligible to take advanced workshops and do pilgrimages. This one pilgrimage to Mexico that I mentioned to you earlier, and also visits down to work with the Shipibo and do dieting with plants down there. And so not everybody takes us up on it. Some people say, "Thank you. We learned everything we wanted to know in a year," and then they go off and do something else. But some people say, "Oh, let's go." They embark on the real learning, which takes place over a number of years. Like the pilgrimage to Mexico requires five visits over 5 years, and they have to do certain things. There's kind of an initiation, and then they experience a huge breakthrough, like an expansion, after 5 years, and then some of them go on to help us teach, or they go on, start their own programs, and there's all kinds of things that happen. So it's really by interest. It's people can continue or not, And on occasion, there's somebody that we just see as it's not really their path. And, we share that with them. Clearly, this is not your path. And, they might want the glamour of it and all that, but that's not it. So we discourage that.
Well, taking a look at your website, Jose, thepowerpath.com, I find there's so many ways to engage in the work that you offer. And you also give personal consultations yourself. What might that entail?
Well, that's simple. I used to do more psychotherapy with people, but I don't do that so much anymore. I do more consultation work these days. Sometimes it's very shamanically oriented, but always has an element of spirituality. But it doesn't always involve shamanic healing, or it depends on what they need. So if it seems they need some shamanic healing, we do that. If it's about something else, then maybe sometimes it's about raising their kids, which is another story. It's challenging. But, it's often very, very helpful to people because they get information about their kids and what they need to do to get in communication with them in a better way and things like that. So it's almost like family therapy.
Well, I believe, Jose, from your experience and throughout your time of apprenticeship and throughout your time of being a shamanic practitioner yourself, that you have such a diverse background that you give and bring to both your sessions and to the Power Path yourself. As an aside, I was speaking to Lena the other day, and she just mentioned Jose, he's a wise, compassionate male. What do you think about that?
Well, it's very sweet, and I love hearing that.
Well, it wasn't. It came out impromptu of just the value of working with you, your leadership within the Power Path community, and your guidance for your students and those people who study with you. The Power Path is something special, wouldn't you say?
I've been told by others that I'm like a pivotal facilitator, that through some kind of interaction with me, that people's lives go off in a new direction. And that's my life task. That's what I'm here to do. I enjoy doing that. I love doing that. And it's not me that's really doing it. I'm clear that it's spirit. And Power Path is the vehicle that we've created to allow those kinds of experiences to happen for people. So I think of it as like a big bus. It can take people places on adventures in consciousness.
I think that's very true, and I'm wondering what's your favorite part about it. What about Power Path most strikes you?
Well, it is an extraordinary opportunity for me to meet people. I'm definitely a people person. That doesn't mean I'm an extrovert or, like a highly social person, but I really love exchanging with other people. I love relationship. I love, I see in other people myself, and I see myself in other people. And so working with a wide variety of people, I get to work with all aspects of myself. And it's really enriching. It's really fun. It's an extraordinary opportunity for me I learn every day new stuff. So I'm a student. I consider myself to be a student well as a teacher. But I don't know everything. I far from it. In fact, every day that goes on, I feel like there's more I don't know. So,
Well, I feel like you have a rare quality, Jose, of being accessible, very accessible, but still scholarly. And you've written over 20 books, and running or being the founder of an organization such as the Power Path, and the personal discipline and commitment you have to the path is quite striking.
well, I want to insert that I'm also having a really good time. that it is fun. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. It is fun. And that's a key element. And I really try to encourage other people to have fun too. I look around, I just see people not really having real fun. I mean, they do things that might look like fun, but aren't really, like heavy drinking, and that isn't really fun. But I like to see people enjoying their work and really having fun with their families, and that inspires me. I learn from that.
Well, I'm sure that impacts the community that you're gathering together. And I know it can be quite a diverse group of people, from those who are casually interested in shamanism or changing their own life in some way, to people, as you've mentioned, who are really committed to the path that you offer and go on pilgrimages. The community that you foster and the awareness that you foster is quite remarkable, I believe.
Well, a big part of it is building community. I, ever since I was a little kid, I had that as a value, that I really wanted to be part of a community. I really wanted more community in my life. My family was very small, and in going to fairly rough schools when I started school, it was you know, rough crowd. Had to fight my way through school a lot. I don't know, a lot of physical fights. So I got a glimpse of how people could be really cruel to each other, and uh, I just got a real sense. I wanted no part of that. I really wanted no part of that. And I was looking for a loving community, not a violent community. And those experiences actually really motivated me to pursue this path. Actually, it came out of seeing seeing the dark side, and wanting to go in another direction, path with heart, you could say. That's which the shamanic path is. I wanted to just mention here that that I don't see the shaman as a person's body, or the person's personality, or even what the clothes they wear. I mean, you can dress like a shaman and you can sound like a shaman, but that doesn't make you a shaman. What I've discovered is that the real shaman is spirit. That's the real shaman. That's the shaman in everybody. It's spirit. And if we can open to that and be a vehicle for that, let it come through us, then we're doing the shamanic work. It's the shamanic path. But the rest is all, it's all show.
Well, as I understand it from reading a little bit of what you produce, is you're quite disciplined yourself. You begin with showers, as I understand it, that are not warm and cozy to begin the day. Is that true?
Well, when I can, it's yeah. One of my practices is to take a cold shower every day, and I find it really stimulating, and it wakes me up, and it's a little uncomfortable, especially in the dead of winter. It's like, oh, do I really want to do it? Yeah, I just don't think about it. Just turn the faucet on. And so it's like just diving into something that's uncomfortable, but actually has very, very positive outcomes. So, yeah, that's a practice of mine. But I know it is for many people these days, taking icy baths and things like that.
Well, I'm very curious about your discussion of coming closer to spirit. That's really shamanism. Do you feel that practices such as a cold shower, for instance, or self-denial in some way, or discipline, is necessary or essential to finding or cultivating spirit within?
I don't want to like dramatize suffering because that's a mistake. But I think that being willing to be uncomfortable is a good practice because some of the best things in life require discomfort, like intimacy with people. There can be some discomfort in opening an area of intimacy and talking about something that's very private. But there's huge rewards in that. So it's worth doing. So if we pamper ourselves, it can make us kind of wimpy or, avoidant of, some really valuable experiences. At the same time, there's people that I was raised Catholic, remember? So, the suffering was dramatized. It was like considered to be a virtue and a value, and everything should be suffering. And that is the wrong path, as far as I'm concerned. Life shouldn't be about suffering. It might include some suffering. It certainly includes some pain. Can't avoid that. But we don't have to suffer.
So, how do we cultivate that shaman within?
The easiest answer is by being in nature, is going outside and saying hello to everything, is acknowledging. We're so rude. We step out our doors, we walk out into the world. We never even say hello to the trees and the sun and the birds flying by. We just get in our cars and drive off to work. And it's really rude. It's like, hello, everybody. It's wonderful to see you. This is kindergarten stuff. But it's the fastest path, actually, to the shamanic path. It's the fastest way. It's acknowledging that we're all connected, that it's all one thing. It's like spirit is everywhere. I mean, the spirit is even in that, fire hydrant over there, or that, telegraph pole or whatever. It's spirits in everything. And that has taught me more than anything else. That's like gold.
Well, that practice, I'm aware, is in your book, The Shaman's Book of Extraordinary Practices, and that itself is quite a remarkable book that engages all kinds of life experiences in a more spiritual or shamanic way, cross-culturally. And I think that in itself is quite a gift, and I would think that people being involved with the Power Path community or being attracted to working with you in some way would really benefit by the community and the commitment to finding spirit within.
Well, that's always my aim. That's always my hope and wish that is so. And I think I've seen plenty of evidence that it is. So that gratifies me a great deal.
Anything about the future, Jose? Anything you see the flow of your life, the flow of your practice heading in a certain way?
Well, people have asked me about retirement. I don't know what that word is. I feel like I've just arrived. Why should I retire when I'm just like, uh, doing my best work? So I don't anticipate retiring. I have had to slow down in some ways. I mean, this last week I had cataract surgery on my left eye, which I don't know if you can see, but there's no lens in there. um, so, there's maintenance. There's, aging is a thing. So I have to bow to that and, take good care of myself. I can't do some of the wild, crazy schedules that I did, many years ago. But I'm still extremely active, and I intend to be extremely active until, my final day, and then that takes care of that. So,
Why stop when you're doing your best work now?
well, that's the thing. I'll let spirit decide when it's time to go. Meanwhile, I'll just do my thing.
Well, Jose, I so appreciate you sitting down with us today and letting us get to know you and get a little entry into the Power Path School and the texture of offerings there and the support to shamanic community. Before we need to close, is there anything else you'd like to offer or make sure that you say to the audience?
Oh, yeah, I think so. There's nothing more valuable than than recognizing that you're spirit. That spirit is not just all around and over there and that, this and that and the other, but it's in here, and it's especially in here. And we're self-illuminated beings. So the light flows out of us through our hearts, radiates all around us, and aligns with the radiance coming from everything else. And it's just one big ball of light. And so, to just remember that. That's if anybody just remembered that, that would be enough to take them on a grand adventure.
What a profound offering, simple yet so impactful in its own way. I'm sure you have moments where you fall away from that realization, and yet it seems so strong within you that you live this illumination.
Well, that's really true. I'm definitely not completely baked. I have my moments where I lose track and have some anxiety and, get off track and to reel myself back in. And sure, that's part of being human. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here.
And yet that illumination shines through so clearly.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Jose, and the fact that you're having so much fun. Your fun is palpable. Your joy is infectious, and I believe that you represent Power Path in an authentic way, and certainly represent yourself and are willing to tell us about your path. I so appreciate your candid sharing.
Well, thanks, Wake, for you're such a good interviewer, and you bring that out. And I see the light in you too.
Well, thank you so much, Jose. And I'm sure anyone who is watching this program about you and the Power Path will see the light in the work you do and see their own light in addition reflected. Any final thoughts?
No, I think that's it. Can't think of a thing.
I so appreciate our time together, Jose. You've been very gracious in sharing yourself with us, in talking about yourself and your path, in sharing your wisdom and the indigenous connections and teachings and what has flowed through you. Through those pilgrimages, through the apprenticeships, through your dedication to your own life path and sharing in such a deep and heartfelt way. So I thank you so much for your presence today, for showing us your heartfelt path. And I appreciate your membership in Shamans Directory, and you really fill out the circle of what we strive to offer, which is different aspects of the shamanic life. And you live your own way so authentically. Thank you so much, Jose.
My pleasure. Thank you.
To everyone watching, thank you for joining us. This Shaman to Shaman Conversations. These sessions help to grow our global shamanic spiritual community. To learn more about Jose Luis Stevens, you can look at the Power Path website and visit his profile at shamansdirectory.com. You'll also find additional interviews, summit presentations, and replays of our live events on our YouTube channel. Until next time, this is Wake. We'll see you around the fire. Thank you.